Sometimes when working with large bodies of text, especially if it's justified text, the punctuation gets in the way of making everything look nice and crisp. Especially if you've got punctuation that runs right at the edges, such as quotes or hyphenations or periods, they tend to visually or optically mess up the alignment of all of your text. To turn on optical margin alignment will fix this problem. I'm going to use my selection tool and select this text. Then I'm going to go up to my window and let's open the story editor under Type and Tables and choose Story. And this lets me turn on my optical margin alignment. You can see when I do this how it's going to shift everything over just slightly. And let's increase it to be about 14 point. It's a small but subtle way of keeping everything visually and optically aligned so that everything looks really nice inside of each of your text boxes. We can close it out now. To make this a bit more fancy, let's grab our Type tool and let's select the first little paragraph, putting it here for the H. In the Paragraphs panel, to make a drop cap from the H, all you have to do is increase the drop cap amount here. The more you increase it, the more lines it'll drop down for each one. Let's set it to be 2 for that. To make it stand out even more, we can also highlight it. Let's change its fill color to be that stem green. I'm going to zoom out. If you want to adjust the spacing between characters, there's 2 different ways we can do it. We'll go up to the very top. Whoops, excuse me. There we go. Go up to the very top and let's highlight a bit of delight. Let me go into not out of preview mode so I can see it. There we go. Tracking is the first way that you can increase the amount of space between all of the characters that you've got selected. This is found in the Characters panel, so with it open, and the tracking setting is this option here. If we were to type in something like 100, it will space out all of our characters, and you can hit the up and down arrow to see that dialed in. If you only wanted to change the distance between individual characters, this is known as kerning. Let's do that between the T and the S in Strawberry. Place your cursor right between both of those, and we're going to set our kerning value to be -20. So in this value, we'll set it to be -20. You can see it pulls it together from there. There is a great keyboard shortcut. If you're on a Windows computer, it's Alt and the left arrow, or if you're on a Mac, it's Option and the left arrow. We'll drag that back as well too. I can see it's actually giving me a little glitch if you saw the double thing on there. If that happens, that's okay. But we're going to back it up to be about -60 to -80 for its design. Option, we'll bring it forward just a bit. That looks good for there. Another good thing that you can control is how hyphenations appear in your body copy. Let's go back down to here and do Command A to select all of this body copy. Going back to your paragraph panel, we can open up and see hyphenations 2 different places. First of all, to turn on and off hyphenation, you can click here and you can see how it either hyphenates or doesn't hyphenate your text. But if you want to have further controls over how much room is hyphenated per line, in the paragraph options, you can open up your hyphenation options. From here, we can set exactly how we want this to be turned on. For instance, I'm going to turn on preview. We'll set our number of lines to have a 5-letter limit with 2 and 2 for your limit for your before and after. But let's do a hyphenation limit of 2 as well, and we'll keep everything else exactly the same. When we say OK, it may or may not change it up, but that's a good way of dialing in exactly what you need. If you want further control over exactly how things will break in a character, if I was to select this text, and let's say I wanted to read "You stand out like," and then put a Strawberry on their own individual lines, I could do a hard return, and that gives me the little pilcrow right here. Doing that, however, treats the next paragraph as its own individual paragraph, and sometimes that'll mess up your styling that you have. Instead, we want to do what's known as a soft return or a forced line break. To do this, there's 2 ways. We can get rid of our little space between the like and the A, and you can go up to Type Let's do a break character, and this will be a forced line break. This gives a little dash that looks like this. It does the same thing, but in this case it keeps everything nice and together and treats this as if it's one continuous paragraph. Again, I can do the same thing in a bowl of, let's put of peas there. The other way you can do a forced line break is by holding down the Shift key before you hit the return key. And that also types it in. That tends to be my go-to method of doing those. I'm going to zoom back out. Now this next part is very important on learning how to set tabs within your design. Let's scroll down to this nutritional facts. We want to be able to add a ... after each of the different nutritional things that leads our eye into the facts that are set here. And we want all of these to be lined up. So the numbers are all lined together and they're spaced in between with a series of dots. In order to do this, we're going to use tabs to set it up. So I'm going to highlight everything that's here. You can see that tabs are already typed in because there's a tab character by the double chevron that's typed in with this. So to activate the tabs, let's open our tab panel. Go to Type, open your Tabs panel, and by default it's usually sitting right on top of the area that we're working with. But if it doesn't, you can click on the little thing here and that will get it to be set up. Usually let's move it over here so it's right on top of it. That should have done it, but now it's the good setup. All right, with this done, we're going to set a right align tab. We'll click right here. Its X position is where we want it to be on the screen, and we want to have it right at the 2-inch margin. So we're going to type a 2, and then you can see how it sets it there, and now everything is aligned nicely to this side. And a leader is going to be what character is leading into it. We're going to type in a period for the leader. When I click away, you can see how it adds it. So this is a great way to add a decorative element to quickly align everything using your tabs. We can close out the tab panel now. Let's scroll back over. Let's highlight the text that's underneath all of the different ingredients, and this is the steps for a recipe. I want to automatically number off each one of these steps. The fastest way to find this is in your Properties panel. If you look at the very bottom and find Numbers and Bulleting, or Bullets and Numbering. If we choose the numbered list, this will automatically add individual numbers set to there. This style of numbering is known as a hanging indent because everything is indented and it has the numbers hanging outside of that area. These numbers are automatic, so I can't necessarily highlight them to change them. I'd have to go into their options and properties, and we'll talk about that in the future. Another very powerful thing you can automatically do to text is to have some shading behind it. If you click inside the chocolate covered strawberries area, with this paragraph selected, you can go to your paragraph panel and turn on shading. This will automatically shade the background of it, and let's set the color of it to be strawberry red. This fills it in nicely and adds some great simple design without actually having to create a text box behind everything that you've got. The last little bit of decoration can be done at the very top for a bite of delight. We want to add an automatic line decoration below this text. So one more time, let's highlight the text. We can go to our paragraph panel and we're going to insert what's known as a paragraph rule. So choose paragraph rules. Now remember, rules in InDesign mean lines, and so we're not necessarily making a rule like rules of the game, we're actually drawing off some sort of line. We want to put a line below this, so choose Rule Below, and we'll turn the rule on. The weight of this is going to be 8 points. The color of it, it can match the text color, but we're going to let it be a stem green. We want it to only stretch across the text that we have. So we're going to set the width of it to be the column, not column, but to be text. There are different styles of lines, and so let's do the white diamonds. And we're going to offset. Offset is how far down you want it to be. So we'll increase the offset of this to be, 0.0625. If you turn on preview, you can get an idea of what that looks like before committing to it. We'll say OK to apply these changes. And now it's set to go. The best part about this is if I started adding on more, it'll automatically draw a line for me. If we haven't done so already, let's go to File and save our document. I'm going to close out my paragraph panel and do Command-0. If I hit W, this will give you an idea of what your final design now looks like. Again, save this up as an InDesign document, and that's what you're going to turn into our class page.